This is David Frederick, and I'm Front Row. Okay, from Charlotte Memorial Stadium on July 18th. Um, Very short match, but very impressive. Two of my favorites: Barry Windham, Western States Heritage Champion, against Big Bubba Rogers, now managed by General Skandar Akbar, with Bob Caudle and Johnny Weaver doing the commentary. And this is not an easy match to find. But apparently, the entire I'm trying to find all the matches for the Charlotte Memorial Stadium show for the Great American Bash on tour '87. All the matches are apparently taped for Charlotte Memorial Stadium. So I found Barry Windham, Big Bubba Rogers, and Barry Windham's Western States Hell on a line. The match is only about 6 minutes, but Big Bubba, wow. Now it's at 345 pounds. That's why I've always loved his gimmick, the image, the man. Wow, he's impressive for moving like a big man. He is so much like a future Bam Bam Bigelow. Wow, he got a sidekick, a pile driver. He is an impressive man to watch. I mean, far before the big boss man gimmick, Big Bubba Rogers, a cool, awesome. I could see why Dusty saw something in him when he was just Ray Traylor as a jobber and town enhancement. Even for less than about 6 minute match, gives Barry Windham a hell of a hard time. A great, pretty good match, but Barry Windham, every time Bubba knocked him out, kept knocking him down, knocking him outside. Barry Windham then climbs to the top turnbuckle and flying body press and covers Big Bubba for the win. And Barry Windham defeats Big Bubba. Very good match, short match, but you could see why Big Bubba is such an impressive gimmick and impressive wrestler in his own right, just for such a big man. Okay, from the Charlotte Memorial Stadium, the Great American Bash. On July 18th, it was taped for July 25th episode on Worldwide Wrestling. Bunkhouse match. Steve Dr. Earth Williams and Terry Bam Bam Gordy. They were a long-time tag team, and probably it may have been started about this time period, 1987. And they went on to Japan, and they were a long tag team. Long time they teamed up. Terry Gordy was the long time part of the Fabulous Freebirds. And Steve Williams, Terry Gordy taking on Eddie Gilbert, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, and Kevin Reddick, Dick Murdoch. Wild, bloody bunkhouse brawl. You wish you could see the full version of this match again. Um, it's only made again a 5 minute match for television, but it's a wild bunkhouse brawl. He get a kick out of Steve Williams wearing his Oklahoma Sooners, the college football a white outfit, and everything goes. Anything. It's not the way anything goes. They pull out everything. They weren't there. I don't know. They use their boots. They use I guess a bull rope, and everything is. And the referee is just there watching it. Yeah, wild bunkhouse brawl, typical. But it's UWF, and they are known to beat the living hell out of each other. But for a 5 minute match, it's entertaining. It's really good to watch. And Steve Williams takes his boot and blasts Eddie Gilbert in the face. And covers him for the pins. Steve Williams, Terry Gordy beat Eddie Gilbert and Dick Murdoch in a bunkhouse match. Was seen on NWA Worldwide Wrestling on the 25th, but this is July 18th at the Charlotte Memorial Stadium during the Bash. Okay, a tag team match during the Charlotte Memorial Stadium Great American Bash show. Again on July 18th and tape of the July 25th Worldwide Wrestling episode. Uh, United States Tag Team Champion, the Midnight Express, with Jim Cornette this time against the Freebirds, Michael PSAs and Buddy Jack Roberts. Both are now on in the TV. You can hear both the entrances, both introductions are brought in there. The Midnight Express music and the Freebirds Bastard USA is played. The one thing that's interesting is Jim Cornette being at ringside this time, because the majority of the beginning of the Great American Bash on tour since July 1st, he had been out with a knee injury. And I'm just learning about this. Listen to a recent podcast by Jim Cornette covering the summer of 1987, 1988. and he said that it was the June 27th, 1987 Philadelphia Civic Center show, which I was at. Rock and Express Midnight Express match, and he said he slipped or something, and his one of his quads, his leg muscles pulled, and he was out for a majority of July, I guess up until this date. And it was in many matches that the Midnight Express and Rock and Express have during the Great American Bash throughout July. Cornette is missed. He's not at ringside, and the Midnight Express Rock and Express have great matches without him. They've proved that their tag team wise, they can work without Jim Cornette's interference. Now this match is the United States Tag Team title on the line. The Midnight Express defending against Freebirds Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. The crazy thing is, wow, the Freebirds let alone a tag team match against Michael Hayes and Buddy Roberts. The Midnight Express have trouble in this match, and this is a rarity. And not even did Dennis Condrey and Bobby Eaton have problems, but Stan Lane. What happened was Buddy Roberts get a hold of Stan Lane by the arm and starts swinging him around and around about 3 times. About 3 times, and he kept trying to tag out to Bobby Eaton. But about third or fourth time, it's like it was such a collision that they ran I think Stan punched or slapped. I think he went to punch Buddy Roberts, but the swing around, he punched or slapped Bobby Eaton so hard. Whoa. Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton nearly came to blows. They were going to hit each other. Cornette had to grab Bobby Eaton, quick, calm this down. This is the first time you possibly have seen the Midnight Express in trouble, that they were going to come to blows, a possible breakup. But Cornette calmed it down. But again, a couple more times, it was about one more time or so, that Eaton and Stan Lane have a collision. They have some problems in this match. Freebirds have a little bit better control. It was up until Cornette holds Buddy Roberts, and Stan Lane smacks. Stan Lane gets a hold of Jim Cornette's tennis racket and smacks Buddy Roberts on the back with the tennis racket, and where the referee is, but Stan Lane covers Buddy Roberts, and the Midnight Express defeat the Freebirds. Stan Lane pins Buddy Roberts, and the Midnight Express defeat the Fabulous Freebirds and retain the U.S. Tag Team title here at the Bash in Charlotte. Okay, back in the Charlotte Memorial Stadium Great American Bash, the Rock and Roll Express, NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Rock and Roll Express, will defending against the Mod Squad, Basher and Spike. These guys are out of Central States. Again, I've talked about when I did the Crockett Cup '87, and they had the Batten twins. Central States didn't have very much for tag team. They had great singles competition, great veterans, but they don't have very much good tag teams in the Central States territory. But the Mod Squad. Spike and Basher, and they're, honest to God, they're not much of a team whatsoever. They have very, very vague offense that they give the Rock and Roll Express. Rock and Roll Express pretty much dominated. This is almost a jobber match. It's almost. As they vaguely do, Spike and Basher give Ricky and Robert some offense. I thought this match would be. They have introductions. The Rock and Roll Express come in with the boogie woogie music rather than the Rock and Roll King, so they changed over. They're no longer using Rock and Roll King, and they're using the boogie woogie dance hall. Their new music. And both teams are brought in by golf carts, being Charlotte Stadium, and this is taped for the July 25th Worldwide Wrestling episode. Again, Mod Squad give the Rock and Roll almost no offense whatsoever. But the Rock and Roll does get a double drop kick, but they are able to break up the pinfall. The Mod Squad stopped the pinfall, but then Robert Gibson's thrown out of the ring a couple of times. But Robert Gibson does a sunset flip on Spike, and a heavier set one, and they get the pinfall. And Rock and Roll Express defend against the Mod Squad. Again, this is not much of a match. It's practically a jobber match for the Rock and Roll Express. The next match shown in the VHS commercial release of the Great American Bash 1987 on tour. It actually goes to a third location, the July 18th Charlotte Memorial Stadium. A feature match is a barbed wire match. Dusty Rhodes against Tully Blanchard. Because they're lights out, and for the $100,000, Tully Blanchard's TV title is not on the line. I can maybe consider that, but the $100,000. This match only dates back 1 month ago when they had a TV match where they had about a 1 hour match between Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard for $100,000, where JJ Dillon put up. It's a question about the how much the money that was put on the line in that $100,000 match, and Dusty defeated Tully using his own move, the slingshot suplex, pinned him. But then Dillon stole the money, went out in the parking lot, disappeared. But because Tully Blanchard's foot was on the rope in that match, the referee Tommy Young continued the match where Dusty chased Dillon out in the parking lot. And Tommy Young had counter Dusty out. So Dusty had lost a $100,000 match. This is the rematch. And considerably, anyone who's ever seen this particular barbed wire match between Dusty and Tully, it's pretty much a Dusty Rhodes gimmick match. Well, all gimmick matches. But this is a match where Tully Blanchard practically had no way to win. Lights out. And even referee Tommy Young is yelling, no rules. And Tully even uses kind of a vague loaded black glove. You see a little black glove. They can barely put the glove on him. So Dusty or Tully can barely put the glove on. And Tully smacks Dusty with the glove. And Barry Windham is in Dusty's corner. Barry Windham yells at Tommy Young, "Hey, he used something to hit Dusty Rhodes with." And Tommy Young yelled, "There are no rules in this match." But here, strangely enough, they call it a lights out match. But lights out would be considered referee Tommy Young calling for a 10 count, somebody to stand up. It's not part of the match. It's a ladder match. This is where the ladder is a weapon, and probably I think the WWF took, and the way they saw this match, they copied the ladder, and they climbed the ladder, and a bag of money is hung up by cable or ropes across the top of the ring. Barbed wire is significantly used in this, strangely enough, okay, Dusty is dressed in, it's pretty much a bunkhouse match too. They're both dressed in bunkhouse attire. Dusty's wearing a long sleeve denim shirt, pant jeans, and that's what he typically wears. Tully Blanchard is wearing practically a black tank top or a modified ripped shirt of the Four Horsemen. And you're surrounded by barbed wire, and they both want to avoid the barbed wire. Why are you wearing a black tank top, modified ripped Four Horsemen shirts, surrounded by barbed wire when you're in? Yeah, Dusty pulls Tully to his arms. His arms make contact with the barbed wire, and you see the barbed wire rip into his arms. Hey, dumbass, why are you wearing a tank top shirt in a barbed wire match? Oh my God, that's stupid. But Tully gets Dusty up against his cuts. Dusty typically cuts his eye cut. At times you wonder. Tully wants to rush up that ladder. When Tully gets the whole ladder, he rushes up, and Tully and Dusty go back and forth, knocking each other off the ladder. Even Dusty vaguely does a drop kick against the ladder. And even when the first time Dusty climbs the ladder up to the money, Tully kind of kicks a very light kick on Dusty's ankle, reminding of the 1985 leg break the Horseman did, and he falls down, but eventually quickly gets back up. He always wants to sell that ankle break, but he quickly gets back up. Dusty always climbing, and then the moment he knocks Tully off the ladder, and then Dusty puts his arm up. Hey, I'm on top of the ladder. Then Tully knocks Dusty down. I know they want to stretch the budget, but neither are rushing up to grab the money. Eventually, and then J.J. Dillon enters the ring, slaps. Why he slapped Tommy Young and Tommy Young is yelling Barry Windham, no rules. So why did J.J. Dillon slap referee Tommy Young down? That didn't make any sense. But Barry Windham gets grab a hold of J.J. Dillon. He chokes him down. Dusty gets a hold of that little so-called loaded black glove, knocks Tully down with the black glove. Um, this is funny. This is one. It has to be the ending is practically the funniest moment. Um, Dusty then he hand signals referee Tommy Young, pick the ladder up and stand up. And Tommy Young gets up. He opens up the ladder. Dusty climbs up and grabs the bag of money. Dusty, you used to see Dusty waving his hands at referee Tommy Young, says, "Pick the ladder up and stand up and set it for me." It's funny how he orders the referee to do it. But Dusty gets a hold of the money and wins this $100,000 non-TV title match. Why was Cole lights out? I don't know. But Dusty, this is a match from Charlotte Memorial Stadium. I think this is the only match from Charlotte Stadium. It's interesting so far. They've had Atlanta, Greensboro, and Charlotte. It's interesting. This VHS tape is going in multiple locations. Was the Dusty Rhodes Tully Blanchard $100,000 barbed wire match.
Manager J.J. Dillon and Lex Luger. Mr. Dillon.
You know, Saturday, July 25th is going to be a big day, as if the whole month was a series of big days. But really, we're looking towards that date because Lex Luger has said and made it public that by the 25th of July, he will be the United States heavyweight champion. Every prediction to date has come true, and it's an added bonus to all the women of Philadelphia that have stood so solidly behind the total package. One of them, in the dating game special version with guest Lex Luger, will have the night of their life, a limousine, the finest restaurant, and something to talk about for the rest of her life. A day when Lex Luger, most importantly, the new United States heavyweight champion.
You're right about that, JJ. It will be one very special night for one very special lady in Philadelphia.
It's the Great American Bash on tour at the Philadelphia Civic Center, Saturday, July 25th. It starts at 8 o'clock. On the card, the Florida heavyweight champion, Mike Rotunda, will take on Dory Funk Jr. Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Vine on the card against the Barbarian. A six-man event. The Fabulous Freebirds, led by Michael Hayes, will take on Ivan Koloff, Vladimir Pietrov, and the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez, with Paul Jones. For the Western States Heritage title, the champion, Barry Windham, will defend against one of the four horsemen, Arn Anderson, plus the dating game with Lex Luger. One lucky young lady will win a date with the total package that night, Lex Luger. A lumberjack match. Each lumberjack will have a tennis racket in his hand. The Rock and Roll Express will take on the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette. A bunkhouse match. Dr. Death Steve Williams goes up against Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch. A special attraction tag team event. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin will team up with Precious to take on the team of James J. Dillon and Dark Journey. A double bull rope match. Dusty Rhodes and Ron Garvin will take on Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard. And then in a cage for the U.S. title, Nikita Koloff against Lex Luger in Philadelphia.
July 25th, 1987, the Great American Bash on Tour comes to Philadelphia at the Civic Center. I was at the June 27th, the month before, at that show, and it was highlighted and featured Ric Flair defending the world title against Jimmy Garvin, and he upset Garvin with his legs on the ropes, advantage to pin Garvin. I remember Garvin standing against the ropes with Precious, upset they lost to Flair. During that show, they announced the Great American Bash will come to Philadelphia. I definitely went and got tickets. I really believed I really remember my brother Donald coming with me to the show, and when I asked him about it, he says no, he was having medical issues, and I almost have a vivid memory of him with me, but I guess not. I definitely had to get balcony seats because for such a huge show, house show, a ton of matches, I wanted good seats, and I had to get balcony, and because I remember being at the I don't remember the June 27th all that well show. I do remember Rick. I think pretty close to rings. I was pretty close. Maybe the seats had emptied out, and I could see Jimmy Garvin and Ric Flair real good. I don't remember how close the seats, but it's maybe the crowd let out and I could see that match. But compared to the August 16th and that place, oh my God, that was so sold out. It seemed I was 10th row back. Very bad place to be. Wow, when everybody stood up when the Rock and Roll Express won back the World Tag Team titles on the Midnight Express that night. And that's a year ago, and I did not want to go through it again with the crowd under seats, always standing, whatnot, and the balcony with great seats. I did take a lot of photos, 6 to 8, if not more. Unfortunately, I have one remaining photo you're going to see of the Lex Luger dating game, and I'm going to talk about that in about a minute. Unfortunately, about these photos I had taken of several of the major matches, I unfortunately sold them. Reason why is after 2001 and Vince's buyout. Sorry, yeah, Vince's the buyout time to March 2001, and my heart was no longer in wrestling. It went on and off, like they call wrestling in cycles. It goes up and goes down, whether we like it or don't like it. And I said, oh my God, wrestling's pretty much died. 2001 after. And I sold a lot of things. I gave away videos, sold videos. Hell, I think I threw magazines out. And the photos of that, I think that's the only time I ever took photos. It's the only time I ever took photos of a JCP show. But I still have the program, which you're seeing now, intact. Unfortunately, I circled all the winners and marked Holly won. No, Holly won. But I whited them all out. And then to this day, I haven't figured out why I did that. But going over the card, I remember majority of the matches, but in the first few, of course you don't remember the first few, but Kendall Wim and Todd Champion versus the Mod Squad. I was a fan. I was a very fair fan of Kendall Windham. He was an upcoming rookie star of the legitimate brother of Barry Windham, and I was enjoying him. Should have become much more. Todd Champion. I think he was part of that new breed. Didn't found him insignificant. No, I thought New Breed was ridiculous. The Mod Squad, a cop, vague version of a tag team, and I said earlier with the Rock and Roll Express match in Charlotte, this is the best that Central Stakes could come up with. From the results online from history.com, Graham Coughlin's website, the results say Kendall Windham and Todd Champion defeated the Mod Squad. It doesn't surprise me. The next match on the card was NWA Junior Heavyweight Champion Lasertron versus Nelson Royal. I was a big fan of Lasertron, and I did not, at the time as a fan, I did not know Lasertron was Hector Guerrero under a mask. I thought the mask was outstanding, and a lot of people don't like it. They rather see Hector Guerrero wrestle, and Hector Guerrero, the Guerrero family, were fantastic wrestlers, each and every single one of them. But I like the Lasertron, and I did not know that was Hector Guerrero, but he's fantastic. And I remember the match when he defeated Denny Brown, and I was a fan of Denny Brown too. It was disappointing to see him defeat Denny Brown for the junior heavyweight title, but fan of both. And another fan of Lasertron defeats another one person I'm a fan of, Nelson Royal, a veteran. The first time you ever see Nelson Royal was, as fans, was when the Bunkhouse Stampede was being talked about, and he's sitting at a campfire. And today he was in the first Bunkhouse Stampede with Dory Funk Sr. in Texas. Came out with a broken arm. We all remember that promo. And he was in the first couple of Crockett Cup Tag Team tournaments with Sam Houston. I had good respect for Nelson Royal being a veteran, but Lasertron defeated him. And I remember, honest to God, I have very vague memories of the Lasertron Nelson Royal match. That's why I really like this match. I have vague memories of this match. Now, the next match I don't have a memory of. Sean Royal, I think it's the other half of New Breed, with Todd Champion, defeated Titan Stan. Titan Stan was a long time jobber. Oh, very vaguely. I have far more respect for Titan Stan than I do Sean Royal. But Sean Royal defeated Titan Stan. Next match, another match I have vaguely a good memory of. Florida Heavyweight Champion Mike Rotundo. I have so much respect for Mike Rotundo. I've said before in the other Bash shows, I hated the WWF. He was great 80-45 with Barry Windham as U.S. Express. Always enjoyed watching Mike Rotundo and his airplane spin. But he really, it was Oh God, what the hell did you do, Mike, with that IRS and Michael Wall Street? That was crap gimmicks. I put them in the top 10, top 5 worst gimmicks. But he wrestled another major legend, former NWA World Champion Dory Funk Jr. to a 20-minute draw. I have a good recollection of that match. A very good match. Next match, I guess the Paul Jones feud is continuing, though Paul Jones is not involved, but his army is involved. This is just another match. The Barbarian defeated Jimmy Boogie Woogie Man Vaughn. Oh, I had a picture of this match. I remember having the pictures. It's disappointing I don't have the pictures of these matches. Next match. This is almost a repeated thing about 6-man tags during the Great American Bash on Tour. The Freebirds, Michael Hayes, Terry Bam Bam Gordy, Buddy Jack Roberts, defeated the Russian Bear Ivan Koloff, Rage Bull Manny Fernandez. Now, most of the time in these 6-man tags during the Bash on Tour and other shows, it's Ivan Koloff, Rage Bull Manny Fernandez, and Paul Jones. This time around, it's not. No, Paul Jones is not around. It is Vladimir Petrov, who Ivan Koloff had replaced Nikita Koloff when he turned face. And the Freebirds defeat Ivan Koloff, Vladimir Petrov, and Rage Bull Manny Fernandez. And I more or less vague remember that match. Next match is Western States Heritage Champion Barry Windham. I've always been on and be my top 10 favorites. Western States Champion Barry Windham. Here's the funny thing. We in Philadelphia we listened to Joe Goodhart's Squared Circle Radio, which he wanted to eventually run his own promotion, try State Wrestling Alliance, which would go bankrupt, and his announcer Todd Gordon would form ECW. To make a long story short, he said Barry Windham's Western States Heritage title. He said he could defeat Ric Flair for the world title, couldn't defeat others for their title. So what do? They make him a title. But no, Barry Windham, yeah, oh God, he's a fantastic wrestler. And eventually he would win the NWA title, but not from Flair. And Ric Flair was going to eventually drop it too, I think in the 91 controversy with Jim Herd. Ric Flair wanted to drop it, and then there was a conflict between him and Ric Flair and Jim Herd that he wouldn't drop it to Barry Windham. But Barry Windham was a very he held that title, Western States Heritage title, with no integrity, and defeated Arn Anderson. I have again another less vague memory of that match, but we can only hope this is ever shown on the network or somebody would have a handheld video of this. I'd love to see this show. I definitely took a picture of this next match, a few pictures I remember real well. And these two teams met up so many times during the Bash on Tour, so many times, and I've already shown the photos of the other shows, and talked about them. NWA World Tag Team Champions, the Rock and Roll Express, versus U.S. Tag Team Champions, the Midnight Express, Bob Eaton, Stan Lane, in oh my God, here we go again, non-title. Now, the stipulation of this match, the gimmick of this match, is lumberjacks, the wrestlers, surround the ring with tennis rackets. I mean, they're going to hit the wrestlers with the tennis rackets, getting back in the ring. Okay, that's a unique gimmick. It's not like it hasn't happened before, the lumberjack match, but with tennis rackets. Okay, it's definitely different. Non-title. We did a podcast of non-title, and I think non-title matches are stupid. You do non-title matches against jobbers, talent enhancement. You don't do non-title matches with superstars. And the other shows, it was title for title in many of their matches. The Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, they would wrestle forever. I don't mean this match. They would wrestle the whole Bash on Tour, 86, man, they wrestled forever, and you're never disappointed. They're never boring. Absolutely not. I remember a very good recollection of this match. And I took a lot of photos of this. I tell you what. Here's the thing. I remember the heels would whack the hell out of Ricky and Robert. And what ironically happened was the faces got fed up with the heels attacking. And the heels wrestlers attacked the face wrestlers, the lumberjacks. The lumberjacks would fight each other with tennis rackets. I remember that really well. That vivid memory. I have a more vivid memory of the heel wrestlers, the bad wrestlers, attacking the good wrestlers because the faces attacked the heels with tennis rackets, the lumberjacks, because the faces got sick of the heels attacking the Rock Express. They got sick of they didn't want to put up with it, despite the fact it's the gimmick. It's the stipulation, and the good guys and bad guys, the lumberjacks fought more than the match itself. It was a funny thing. It was funny to watch this, but at least Ricky and Robert, the Roseldas defeated the Midnight Express, but a pinfall. But who pinned who is not listed. All right, I definitely did have pictures of this next match. UWF Heavyweight Champion Steve Dr. Williams against Captain Redneck Dick Murdoch in a bunkhouse match. The one particular picture I had of this is Dick Murdoch gave Steve Williams the bird, his middle finger. He stuck his middle finger up with Steve Williams in the ring. I had a very good close up of this moment. But Steve, they've had many matches. Texas, they said Steve Williams and Dick Murdoch have had several matches as Bash on tour. Texas Death, and this is bunkhouse match. And the result says Steve Williams defeated Dick Murdoch in a bunkhouse match. Now the next match, it was supposed to be only one person was substituted. Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Precious versus Paul Jones and Dark Journey. Paul Jones was subbing for J.J. Dillon because J.J. Dillon still had suffered the separated shoulder, if not broken shoulder, during the War Games. And when the Road Warriors really messed his shoulder up from that top rope move of theirs. And the more unusual thing, and it was practically a one-on-one match. It was Jimmy Garvin and Precious, his valiant wife. Precious never got it. From my strong memory of this, Precious never got in the ring. It was Jimmy Garvin against Paul Jones the whole time. I never saw Dark Journey get in the ring. I never saw Precious get in the ring. So it was practically it was supposed to be it was announced as a mixed tag team match, and it was supposed to be J.J. Dillon and Dark Journey. Who Dark Journey is? He's a valet of the UWF. I respect and enjoyed watching her on TV a lot. Never spoke. I don't think she ever spoke a word. Precious was always cheering for our man Jimmy Garvin. They never did interviews with Precious or Dark Journey. The one thing I noticed about Paul Jones, he's wearing long white tights, long white tights. His ones he's wearing dark, the gray or black tights. That's one thing noticeable about this. But mostly it's a Jimmy Garvin versus Paul Jones. Now, if Precious or Dark Journey got a punch in, possible, I wouldn't doubt it. And I wouldn't doubt if Precious or Dark Journey got one punch on each guy, individually. But the result is Jimmy Garvin and Precious defeated Paul Jones. Dark Journey most likely because Jimmy Garvin pinned Paul Jones. All right, next match. I also definitely had. I had most of my photos were of the highlights of the main event matches. Dusty Rhodes and Ron Garvin. On TV they came in one taping called the Risky Business Boys. They took on Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard on TV, and they came in on with the song Old Time Rock and Roll, and that was a great entrance for Dusty and Ron Garvin. And they took on Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard in a double bull rope match. This should just been a regular match. The double bull rope. This is a Dusty Rhodes gimmick. I don't. It did. Honest to God, it wasn't needed. Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard against Dusty Rhodes, Ron Garvin. It's for that match alone. Main event, worldwide main event anywhere, as we all know. Didn't need it. I mean, there was the all these Great American Bashes, with Starrcade, whatever show. Gimmick matches are great, but you don't need them all the time. And I guess they did it for the Philadelphia show, since it's a house show, when none of this would be seen on TV. Not one TV. That is so disappointing about this show. Looking back now, of all the shows I covered, there were so many individual TV tapings. If one match, 2 matches, 3 matches, 5 matches. Not one match. It's a house show. But not one match was taped for TV. That's disappointing. But Dusty Rhodes and Ron Garvin would defeat Ric Flair and Tully Blanchard. Yeah, and the pin result is Dusty pinned Tully. Now we come to the Dream. I believe I'm not sure when the Dream date. They did a dating game. I'm going back on the Dream Date video with the Garvins and Ric Flair. Sorry, I kept referring to that. The dating game. When this was announced on TV, and you've seen the video of J.J. Dillon and Lex Luger announcing it at ringside, and this, honest to God, wasn't needed because they didn't do it on any other show. It's not like it was a concert. They did 86, 87, they did a little concerts with the wrestlers. This was, I don't know what the point of the dating game was. Lex Luger was gonna, it was an old 70s show, popular 70s show, where the girl would not see the guy. No, they did this backwards. Sorry. The dating game was a girl. The actual TV show, the dating game, was a girl would not see the three men, and she'd be asking him several questions. They'd be hidden by a panel, and then eventually she would pick who she'd go out with. This one was Lex Luger, the male, asking questions of the three girls. Now, I never saw any kind of forms, unless the people of the Philadelphia Civic Center were handing out papers to the girls coming in. I never saw that. But somewhere in the middle of this show, they call these three ladies out. They're by name, full names. Come to the stage or to the back. I'm not sure. I remember the girls being called. Then I had a single photo. I guess somehow I missed this photo in my boxes, and it should have been sold. So the dating game was ridiculous. It was Lex Luger. It was ridiculous because they didn't do it on any other show. That's what doesn't make any sense. The concerts would have made sense, but I have one single photo, and I think he picked one, and I have practically no memory. The girls were really throwing a sexy voice at Luger, talking to him. Yes, Lex. That's the only memory I have of their answer to them. Something. And there was nothing said afterward. It was a house show, inside house show deal. And why this part of the show didn't belong, didn't make any sense. It was just for Philadelphia. It was ridiculous. Okay, we come to the main event. Steel cage. Nikita Koloff versus the new U.S. heavyweight champion Lex Luger. Luger had won on July 11th in Greensboro. I remember this pretty well. And we were all major cheering for Nikita to get the belt back from Lex Luger. But at a house show, what came to it? It was a great match from memory, and I had photos of the cage. What was disappointing was how this ended. Lex Luger was disqualified. Now Nikita put Luger. This is a strong memory I have. Nikita put Luger in a figure 4 leg lock. Maybe Luger grabbed the referee. All I remember is the referee throwing his arms and a bell rang. And I don't remember what happened. I don't remember if the disqualification was announced, or I had to read it on a result later in a magazine or a newspaper. I had assumed that Luger grabbed the referee. I don't know. We were all booing. So what the heck just happened? He had him in the figure 4. Then all of a sudden, Lex Luger apparently is disqualified. That's disappointing in a Jim Crockett Promotions steel cage match. A disqualification in a steel cage match. That sounds something that the WWF would have done. It's a disappointing ending to the Great American Bash on Tour in Philadelphia. Okay, we're going to start off with the opening of the final Great American Bash on tour, the Orange Bowl, Miami, July 31st. And the show opens up with about three jobber matches, talent enhancements. But it's the third match that is. It must have been Florida Television that showed this because the Crockett with the only match shown from Orange Bowl official in VHS is the second War Games, but pretty much the entire show, except for the first two jobber matches, is shown. It must have been Florida TV or how this was all released. It's incredible, but it is available on the internet, mostly on YouTube. And I cover. This is going to be the third match in the show. Will be Raging Bull Manny Fernandez with Paul Jones against Randy and Bill Mulkey, well-known jobbers, talent enhancements, and a handicap match. Now I'm really curious why this didn't occur more. That the heels would face off against a handicap match, two jobbers, talent enhancements. It's interesting. Vaguely similar, I guess, the way Andre the Giant would work with jobbers in the WWF TV tapings. This is the only. I don't think it may happen a very few times in NWA TV tapings with WTBS Worldwide Wrestling, where heels, maybe even faces. I'm not sure if they would face two jobbers. Sometimes I think the Rock and Roll Express winning against Midnight Express and Jim Cornette, in a sense, a handicap match. But this is the third match in the Miami Orange Bowl show, the final bash of the tour. Manny Fernandez. It's maybe 2.5 minutes, but it's doing in progress. And this should have been the whole thing should have been shown. It probably been only 3 minutes, but you can't almost can't tell between Randy and Bill Mulkey apart. But Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, finishes one off. One of the Mulkeys with a flying forearm, and you could hear fans at ringside kind of get Paul Jones and Manny Fernandez's attention. And I'm not really sure what you can hear what they're saying, but you could really hear the fans and. But the opening matches are Scott Hall, a very young Scott Hall. This is 1987 against Bob Cook, Jimmy Valiant and Bugsy McGraw against Ricky Santana and Cuban Assassin. But this third match that is televised where it's videotape. How somebody got a hold of these videos, because there's no commentary, so probably not on Florida TV. How these ended up on the internet on video. It's curious. This is something that the network, WWE Network, would release in a full show without commentary. But the so far, the first match I've found is Manny Fernandez beating Randy and Bill Mulkey in the handicap jobber match. All right, the next match in the Orange Bowl in July 31st, Miami, and the last Great American Bash on Tour match is Western States Heritage Champion Barry Windham against Incubus, a masked big guy. Everybody, the fans at ringside, you would call him a fat pig. Had to look up who this Incubus was. He's a henchman of Kevin Sullivan's devil gimmick type group. I looked up who he really was also. He later, in about 1988, he would be known as Mighty Wilbur. He would work vaguely with Paul Jones. Paul Jones would be part of his army, but Mighty Wilbur was more. Mighty Wilbur became more of a fan favorite. Incubus, you could tell very quickly. Okay, he was working with Barry Windham pretty good. Not really a pushover, but at first, as closer as the camera got to him, you could see the mask. The mask at first reminded me of, and this is not until 2 more years later, 1989 WCW video game they put out for Nintendo, and the final opponent is it looks like a masked Andre the Giant, but the mask this guy is wearing is pretty close in similarity, very close. But this Incubus, when I was trying to look up who he really was, and the Wrestling Classics message board said he's Mighty Wilbur. When the camera got a good close up of him, you saw the beard. Yep, that's Mighty Wilbur. And unfortunately, I just looked up a bit of history on him, and he eventually would pass away in 2014. But as much as his match is only about 4 minutes long, and Barry Windham is going, it's Florida territory, and Barry Windham is going against one of Kevin Sullivan's henchmen. I typed up Incubus in a search, and he is listed among Kevin Sullivan's devil gimmick henchmen. But no, a little bit that gave Barry Windham some pounding back. He's no jobber or putover, not at first. He gave Barry Windham no heck of a time, being a pretty big guy, despite the fact the fans of the ringside call him Big Fat Pig. He wasn't really bulgy or obese, no. But eventually Barry Windham overtook him with the flying. Incubus turned around as Barry Windham came off the top rope with a flying body press, and Barry Windham pins Incubus. Okay, the next match for the Orange Bowl for the Bash on July 31st is Ron and Jimmy Garvin with Precious versus the Sheepherders, I believe with Johnny Ace. I heard one of the fans saying Johnny Ace, and it's amazing with Johnny Ace. They used to have Jack Victory as our flag holder. To Johnny Ace, wow, where he would eventually venture on in WCW and become one of the producers in WWE. It's amazing where that person would lead to become in professional wrestling. Not very much like though, even now with the Sheepherders. But Ron and Jimmy Garvin and Sheepherders. Okay, the Sheepherders. I think that this is an unusual match, entertaining, great brawl. Unusual, but I think the reason the Garvins win against the Sheepherders because the Sheepherders are a mainstay tag team in Florida. I believe I think they were Florida Tag Team Champions. I know they were. The Sheepherders have been one of the main tag teams in the Florida territory. But Ron and Jimmy Garvin, and one thing about this particular match, it's not even the match itself. It's windy out. You see Precious's hair blowing, moving around, and one thing else, 2 or 3 times, at least twice, Jim Cornette mentioned this in a podcast about how I think it was the Orange Bowl he was talking about, where they're probably near the Miami International Airport, and you could hear the airplanes, the commercial big jetliners going overhead. Well, it's not super loud, but it's loud enough, and I wouldn't say interferes, but it would have interfered with his commentary though. And I think Cornette talked about that. You shouldn't have a show near an airport. But it's a good brawl between the Garvins and the Sheepherders. Oh my God! One moment so funny that they're out when Ron Garvin gets one of the Sheepherders out on the ground next to the ring, and he covers him like he's counting 1, 2, 3 like it's a false count anywhere match. Then this is one of the few rare times you ever see Precious get involved in a wrestling match. Garvin he's punching one of the Sheepherders, and then the Sheepherder falls toward Precious. Precious is punching the Sheepherder. I'm not sure. I have never figured out Luke and Butch. You can't, unless you really know them, specifically what they look like. And I'm not saying they're twins whatsoever, but unless you know Luke and Butch, particularly by their looks. Luke Williams, Butch Miller, but one of them, Garvin, is punching, and he goes toward Precious. She punches it, and Garvin punches it, and then she punches it. It goes about two, three times. That's amazing. And Precious was involved in a wrestling match, in a sort of. That was funny and amazing. But according to HistoryWWE.com, covering the Crockett year of 1987, the Miami show, it's a double disqualification. I think that's incorrect because the fans started counting down the time 10, 9, 8, 7. I think it's about 10 minutes less scene of this match. You see the introductions. You see the Sheepherders with their suit and their flag. Ron and Jimmy Garvin, they're introduced. And Jimmy Garvin comes in with Sharp-Nosed Man, with Precious. It may have been Joint in Progress, I'm not sure, but it might have been a 20-minute draw because the fans were counting down the time and the bell rang. And here's the thing: it didn't seem the referee. It was no ref bump. it was no out of control. Even though the match was a kind of a brawl, um, the referee is not like lost control. So I don't think it was a double disqualification as the online result says. I think that there was a 20-minute time limit draw. So the Garbins apparently wrestled the Sheepers to a draw of some kind. All right, the fourth match in the Orange Bowl, July 31st during the Bash. Mike Rotundo, the Florida heavyweight champion, against Russian Bear Ivan Koloff. Now these matches, you wish they were shown in full, full version. I hope the WWE Network eventually shows this whole show because it's very good. I have always been a big fan of Mike Rotundo. Yeah, good athlete out of Syracuse, New York. I didn't get to see much of Mike Rotundo because two things. He either went to WCW as Michael Wall Street, WWF he changed to an unbelievably another stupid gimmick called IRS, Urban R. Shyster. What in the world were you thinking, Mike Rotundo? I loved you're an athlete, a great wrestler, and what the hell is this crappy gimmicks, rich or tax gimmicks you came up? It destroyed you, and I hated your gimmicks. I loved that, being an original wrestler. I know he was part of the Varsity Club. I honestly didn't like the way I guess he was okay to watch during the Varsity Club in the late '80s. But as a heel, but I know when he would tag team with Barry Windham, 8045, his U.S. Express, very fun to watch. But this match is only maybe 2 minutes. You see Mike Rotundo approach the ring, but then apparently later on, the whole match is cut. And here's the thing: I think Mike Rotundo should have won this by disqualification because Ivan Koloff at one point pushes the referee, Bill Alfonso, a Florida-based referee who went on to work with the ECW. Ivan Koloff shoved the referee down. That should have been automatic disqualification. However, Mike Rotundo small packages Ivan Koloff, and Bill Alfonso does a quick. You could consider it a regular 3 count, but I think you could look at it as a fast count because Ivan Koloff shoved him. So instead of making a disqualification, he made a quick fast. It wasn't a fast count, but it seemed fast. But Mike Rotundo small packaged Ivan Koloff and won the match. Here's the thing, yeah. I'm looking at the result here online. It says referee Earl Hebner. No, that was Bill Alfonso. But again, I miss the Mike Rotundo like this. In this match shows the athletic wrestler Mike Rotundo was, and I hated the gimmicks he later became. But I would love to see the full version of this match. Mike Rotundo defeating Ivan Koloff. All right, next match of the night here at the Orange Bowl on July 31st is Dory Funk Jr. versus Kevin Sullivan, and either or both. Kevin Sullivan definitely, I'm a Florida-based wrestler. Sir Albert Humbert didn't get ringside. Now, here's the crazy part out of the fans. It looked like just because Kevin Sullivan is one of the main stars of the Florida territory, the fans are cheering for Kevin Sullivan, who is one of the biggest heels, top 10, top 20 heels in wrestling history. The fans are cheering for Kevin Sullivan rather than cheering for Dory Funk Jr. Here's the thing. In the online results, it's supposed to be a Texas death match, and I don't see it following a Texas death match rules. Where whether a pinfall occurs or they're last man standing and the referee's supposed to count them down. It's just a fight. It's a wrestling fight. And Oliver Humberdinck apparently is managing Dory Funk Jr. I couldn't tell at first who he was managing because both Kevin Sullivan and Sir Oliver Humberdinck, the manager, are both Florida guys. Dory Funk Jr. has wrestled around the world. All these guys have wrestled around the world, but I couldn't tell who were the players, who belonged to who would know the fans were cheering for. They were brawling on the grounds too, outside the ring a lot too, and Kevin Sullivan was more bloody, but I'm sorry Dory didn't, but Dory Funk Jr. is more the definitely the wrestler. Kevin Sullivan, I'd say the brawler, the fighter, the devil gimmick fighter. And again, where Cornette said that being near the airport, he can definitely hear the commercial jets go overhead again. Another match you wish you could see it in full version. I'm not sure whether it's a Texas death match or not. You hear a ring bell. one point. But both wrestlers are on the far other side of the ring. You don't know what's going on. But it's a fight brawl between two guys. Styles definitely different. Dory Funk Jr., the wrestler, Kevin Sullivan, the fighter and brawler. But Kevin Sullivan ended up pinning Dory Funk Jr. And Kevin Sullivan uses the ropes, his legs on the ropes for leverage. And the referee did not see. The referee's more concerned on looking on Dory Funk's shoulders down on the mat for the pin. And Kevin Sullivan pinned Dory Funk Jr. Okay, we just watched the last match of the Great American Bash on tour. Actually, it's War Games 2 from Miami's Orange Bowl, July 31st. It's a copy and it's not of the July 4th first War Games. Dusty Rhodes and Arn Anderson started off as they do. They do it 40 more times actually. So many War Games eventually throughout the 80 and 87 and many years. Dusty Rhodes and Arn Anderson. Dusty said, I believe Dusty Rhodes said it in his Hall of Fame speech that him and Arn Anderson started 40 War Games in a row. One thing I also noticed at ringside among the referees, Bill Alfonso, and he was a major well-known referee down in the Florida area. It's obvious he'd be at ringside. Now, replacing J.J. Dillon, who was injured in the first War Games because the Road Warriors did their off-the-top rope move, and with the cage on top, didn't have much room to do this, to finish the move on J.J. Dillon. He landed so badly on his shoulder, he separated his shoulder. So many more matches during the Great American Bash with his men and the Horsemen. His arm is in a sling. So replacing J.J. Dillon for the Horsemen is War Machine, otherwise known as Big Bubba Rogers, Ray Traylor, in a mask. He's, I didn't realize this is the second time I've ever seen this match since the VHS tape, and you only see this in the VHS release. It's never shown on TV. None of the War Games are ever shown on TV. You only see them on pay-per-view when WCW starts doing them. His mask is actually Dusty Rhodes' Midnight Rider mask. And also surprising in his War Games 2 is the second man in, as the Horsemen take the advantage, as they always do in the War Games. In the first War Games, it was Arn Anderson, then Tully Blanchard. This time, it's War Machine, then I'm watching back and forth. It's only a bit different because then and Dusty's second would be 2-on-2 would be Road Warrior in the first War Games Road Warrior Animal. The second one it's Road Warrior Hawk. Then it typically goes back and forth. But in the first War Games, Paul Ellering and J.J. Dillon, they ended it with the managers as the fifth entry. This one, the fifth entry would be Paul Ellering, it happened in the first one. The fifth entry for the War Games 2 for the Horsemen are Luger. So it was for the Horsemen it was Arn Anderson, then War Machine, Bubba in the Mask, then Flair, Tully, and Luger. Tad bit different than War Games 1. And Dusty Rhodes' side, it was Dusty, then Hawk, which originally was Animal, Nikita, then Animal, then Ellering. It's a tad bit different of entry. I guess they just wanted to change. I guess they change them up for every War Games that occurred. Mostly, it is pretty much a copy back and forth. For the we did a commentary of the first War Games and to cover 20 minutes. Wow, it's as Jim Ross said in the first War Game, it looked like a mass car pileup on the interstate. Tony Schiavone is commentating this match all by himself. Incredible job. But in the ending of this, ironically, where J.J. Dillon would be the weakest point, it's War Machine, Bubba in a Mask, that in the ending, everybody hits War Machine with a clothesline. Dusty, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff. It's like they weaken in a sense. They're wearing them out, clothesline after clothesline after clothesline. Then it was Paul Ellering that introduced their spiked out the Road Warrior spiked gear, like football gear. Their shoulder gear and they got wristbands. Paul Ellering brings in a spiked wristband, and he goes after Flair, but Flair didn't sell it. Then they take that spike. I think Animal takes a spike. I'm not sure where he got it from, Paul Ellering or his own. He takes a wrist spike, a spike on the wrist, wristband spike, whatever you want to call it, and he starts rubbing it in to War Machine's masked face. And up and down, he's ramming it. It's not even. It doesn't even look bloody. You can't even really see the spike enter the eye sockets of the mask. You just see him ram it into his face. It looks like it's going into his mask, but over and over and over. That if all of a sudden when everybody's walking around, it's announced. Dusty. It looked like Dusty yelled it. That then the referee announced War Machine has submitted. So. Superpowers, Road Warriors, and Paul Ellering win the War Games 2 with War Machine, Bubba, and a mask, surrendering or submitting to end the Great American Bash on tour in Miami. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like or dislike, and thank you for watching.